So let's get rid of this border here and just refresh it. So now we've got a website. When we change sizes, we see that it stacks nicely, but our image is still a problem. So we want to, because we're designing as a mobile first perspective, let's take care of our image up here at the top in order to make it that it goes to the available width of 100%. So any images we want to set a max width, and max width is different than just width because width forces it to a certain size, whereas max width tells us that this is where our maximum width is going to be. So this allows our image to resize really nicely, and it's important in mobile design that you take care of and you worry about these images because we never know what size images we could expect. So I want to also add in another size here for our layout screens, and maybe this one we'll go with a really small minimum width, and we're going to turn both of these into 2 columns. So this is just, I'm going to update our design actually. So what I want to happen is I want to have 2 columns of content. So I'm going to copy and paste that, and I want to have 2 columns of content. So this is going to make it a little bit more tricky because I'm presenting to 2 columns there, but then down here, whenever I'm on my smallest size, I only want to have one column of content, or I want it to stack one on top of the other. That's probably a better way to put it. So I want it to look like this. And this is only on the really, really small size screens. So anything like maybe an iPhone, a 480 size screen and less, then this is where I'm going to stack that. So let's update our media query and set a 480 there, and then this in here is where I'm going to identify those sections. So I had my first section and I had my second section, and I'm going to apply some styling to those. So let's take a look at and see how this looks. And this is only for really, really small screens. So for everybody else, we want to have it to go full size. So let's do something here in the middle and add in our 2 column website. So we're going to just do them even widths and float left. So our first one is going to float to the left, and this one is going to have the same thing, but it's going to float over to the right. And let's refresh that. So we notice that again we're going to have all of those padding issues. So we need to take care of those as well where needed. So we do have some padding that we've got from the previous sizes. So I'm going to set that at 48 because this is only really for the small screen that we're going to stack one on top of the other, but then as we see as we're growing, it's still not stacking properly. This is where we have to clear out those floats. So we know that we've got floats there, and when we resize, so there are some issues here with the floats. So let's take care of the floating right off the bat there. So with the nav, so we're going to get rid of the float. Get rid of the float there. We're going to get rid of the float on the main section. And most importantly, we've got to get rid of the floating on the footer. So let's see where footer is. So let's get rid of the floating there, so that this allows us to stack it a little bit better. Let's see what it looks like now. So now we've got the float is cleared, and I'll go back up to here, and we see that as we're adding in these styling properties that it's nicely stacking everything. So this one had an issue there as well. And lastly, we had our nav, so I'm going to just add that in there. So see that what the clear floating does is it allows us to clear those left and right floats and allows us to stack properly. Now there's a problem here with the navigation because I'm clearing the float out of there, so I might not want to do that. Might want to get rid of that, and I might want to get rid of the float on the main. So let's see what that looks like now. So because we're using the pulling over to the left here as well and the floating of the left here as well, so we've got two left floats. So we do need to take care of this whenever we've got this resized version here, and then this is where we need to deal with the main. So main would float over to the right, and the width would be, let's do 70%. And then this is where we can add in that additional padding if we need to, or we'll just do 80% because we didn't add in any additional padding there. So let's take a look at how this is going to behave now. So now whenever we're resizing, we're seeing that it's resizing pretty good. There's a little bit of a problem there, and sometimes it does take a little bit of tweaking here and there just to finalize all of those adjustments. So I'm going to actually resize it at 520 because again there's probably some padding that's sitting there that's causing that to happen. So now we're back into our full size screen. When we shrink it down, we're going into having the two columns there, and when we shrink it down, everything stacks properly. So it's more in line with our original design as well. When we look at this, and we can see that our original design actually had the two contents there, so we essentially had a 3-column design. So essentially this is exactly what we've achieved here. When we add in some more content, this will be more evident. So let's just add in some more dummy content. And I'm going to go back into the HTML and add that into that first section. And I didn't properly copy that. So let's take a look and see what it looks like now.